there was no debate. But 8 years ago, Mayor Broome debated Bodie White, and then last time around she debated Steve Carter, and she is here again, and she is seeking a third term. She finished with 31% of the votes in the primary. Coach Edwards had 34, and Ted James received 28%, and he endorsed the mayor last week. But the mayor has some comments, and we will entertain questions from members of the media and the press club. And please, no long-winded statements, just questions. If you have them, we welcome those, but we'll leave the speeches for another time. Thank you. Mayor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted to be at the press club once again, and I have been contemplating my time here today in light of the fact that my opponent is not here. And I thought that most of you all have certainly heard me talk over the course of this campaign for almost a year now, at least 8 months, about our successes and achievements when it comes to infrastructure, the largest infrastructure project move EBR in the history of Baton Rouge. You've heard me talk about our economic stability, having the strongest economy in the state of Louisiana, and about to have 16,000 emerging jobs in the next 2 years. So there are many successes and achievements that we've touted over the months. But I wanted to take today as an opportunity to talk about the future of Baton Rouge and what the future of Baton Rouge will look like under a Broome administration. Let's talk today about issues such as economic development for the future, city management and practices, public safety, of course, human services, infrastructure. Let's even talk about arts, entertainment, and recreation in the next 4 years of a Broome administration. And something that's very important to me is the image of East Baton Rouge Parish and what that looks like for the future. So I'd like to start first with economic development. My 4 economic development pillars are developing a high-profile business strategy, doing workforce expansion, making sure that we have more integrated access for employee training, entrepreneurism with support from collaboration of our young best business minds, and career advancement pathways for the undertrained. I believe these 4 pillars will give us a strong foundation for what I am describing as the final 4. The final 4 years of a Broome administration. As many of you all know, and there may be some people who are viewing, the mayor-president can only run for 3 terms. So indeed, when I say the final 4, I mean the final 4. So let's talk more about economic development for the future. Of course, you've heard me talk about the expansion or new development of our River Center Hotel and Conference Center. That's going to be transformative in the space of economic development for our city and parish. It will also be a big transformative project for quality of place in Baton Rouge. You may have heard me talk about time and time again during the course of this campaign my plans for the riverfront. Plans that include starting at the bluffs of Southern University and accentuating one of the most beautiful views of the river right there on the bluffs of Southern University. Then going downtown and developing our downtown, curating a space that our young professionals especially will want to visit, as well as our tourists. And then the city parish owns some property out on Nicholson Drive, closer to LSU. And I would like to see our citizens help curate a park or what they believe will be a wonderful addition to our riverfront business. As I talk about economic development, my plans are also to create the first ever one-stop shop for business in government. Occupational licensing, permitting, and inspection, all coming under one stop. Also, I will tell you that we have two major corridor projects that will continue, really just evolving in the next 4 years. One is our Plank Road Corridor project, which is already underway, and one is our Florida Corridor project, which will be starting. This corridor work, in my view, will take us to the next level, moving to the concept of geospatial regional development and revitalization. And of course, I'm looking forward to partnering with our banking community to hear how we can use CRA dollars, and the financial community will certainly weigh in on that. I believe we should have a designation of the quarterly voice and tracking of economic development plan and strategy so it can be known and owned by the community. We can have an economic progress quarterly bulletin from the mayor and our Baton Rouge area of chamber. And of course, I'm always looking for partnerships because we know the value of partnerships, that partnerships for economic development bring good news and good business. So that's my vision for economic development. Now let's talk about, and I hope I have enough time to talk about some other issues I'll just tout as we look forward to the future of Baton Rouge, the Final Four. Let's talk a little bit about city management and practices. We want to continue to expand our transparency and accountability that we have in city-parish government. I imagine that we will have snapshot dashboards to be set up across all of our city-parish departments. In 2025, we will do more promotion of our data and public tracking. We have seen this path be very successful for us, our technology path of collecting data, and we will certainly move that forward. Public safety. I believe we will build on our existing partnerships that we have. Our real-time crime center, which I cannot talk about enough. We need more community groups to come out and visit the real-time crime center so you can see how it intersects with our public safety. I also envision us having new feeder lines for public partner community information links with our chief of police. We will also make sure that our neighborhoods are strengthened, which started with our neighborhood convention. One of the things that we found out in our neighborhood convention that we recently had is that there are shared goals, no matter if you live in 70814 zip code or if you live over in 70806. And our goal is to make sure that we strengthen our neighborhoods. And when we strengthen our neighborhoods, coming together around these shared goals and implementing connectivity with our police department as well as our programs, I believe that we will see additional progress. One of my big issues for 2025 is improved lighting across our city and parish. We all know that improved lighting means improved security and means improved safety. We just recently, and I'm going to talk about this because when we talk about issues surrounding public safety, when we talk about crime, we have to understand that it is a very complex issue. Here in the city of Baton Rouge, we have an 18.5% poverty rate. And we don't police our way out of poverty. We have to have responding programs and initiatives that help with that. One of those initiatives that we recently launched were the 2 mobile units with our Human Services Department. Now, these 2 mobile units have been a dream of mine for quite some time, and I'm glad that we recently launched them. These 2 mobile units will be on the streets for the underserved geographic areas, and they will provide opportunities for individuals, whether they're homeless or whether they have transportation issues getting to our office on Plank Road. We're going to take the resources, the information to them so that they can connect. And I'm looking forward to seeing that make a big difference in our human services area. We have launched a 32-member human services consortium that is working on a number of projects, also in collaboration with United Way. Let's talk about infrastructure. Of course, I won't stop talking about the fact that we have the largest infrastructure project in the history of Baton Rouge. In fact, much of the work that we have done over the past 8 years has been historic. On the infrastructure front, MOVE EBR, we also have historic, the first stormwater management plan in the history of Baton Rouge that shows where every drop of water goes. And so these initiatives on the infrastructure front will continue to transform our city and our parish. I'm looking forward to MOVE EBR serving as a foundation for our citizens to curate. We don't have to call it MOVE EBR 2, but an additional infrastructure, roads, and transportation program. I believe that when we see the success, and we've already started seeing the success of our MOVE EBR projects, it will serve as a great foundation for continued infrastructure work. When we talk about infrastructure as well, I'm looking forward to implementing new communications mapping and reporting to our voters on completed projects that are pending. And we will call this portals of progress for individuals to connect with. Also, I am working on and look forward to having this in 2025, major gateway projects that cover the entries of Southern University as well as LSU for signage and beauty and significance and improvements. I love the arts and entertainment in Baton Rouge, and I want to see that elevated. So we will hold an economic development summit noting the return of investment in East Baton Rouge Parish on our arts, our entertainment economy as well. And of course, I look forward to engaging our citizens by putting together a leadership team to explore an arts beehive spot in downtown on the riverfront or in Mid-City. I don't know how many of you all had a chance to go to the White Light Nights event in Mid-City that took place this Friday. But there were people from all over Baton Rouge, I promise you. It was not just the folks in Mid-City, people from all over. And one of the constant themes that I heard during that time is that there were many people who were not aware that this existed in Baton Rouge, and there were other people who said we need more of this to be part of the fabric of Baton Rouge. Now let's talk about how do we feel about ourselves here in Baton Rouge. You know, I gave the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Baton Rouge over $1 million to talk about and promote the Better in BR campaign. And that was to focus on why Baton Rouge is a good place for people to live and to thrive and prosper, especially our young professionals. I love the campaign, but I think we need more of that in Baton Rouge. Why? Because I believe that we have to accentuate our own unique image that we have here, our own unique assets that we have here in the city and in this parish. And so we will continue to work on a collective image campaign to improve both community pride and identity. I love Baton Rouge. I can't think of any place else I would rather live. I most recently had the privilege of being elected as the president of the National League of Cities, representing 19,000 cities, towns, and villages. And in my vision casting for the National League of Cities, I specifically said that I believe that Baton Rouge is going to be the best mid-sized city in America. And I also told the membership in attendance, everyone should feel positive about their city. And I get that. And that's what I want to see more of in Baton Rouge. We have a lot of assets and positives to accentuate, even in recognizing that Wallet Hub touted us in 2024 as the top city for efficient and effective leadership out of 148 cities. Last year, in 2023, we were number 89 out of the top 100 of America's best cities, done by World's Best Cities. So we've got a great foundation to build on, and quite frankly, I want to finish the job that I started. I will tell you that change does not always equate with success. This is a time in our city and in our parish, as I sit at the table with the individuals from our new emerging city of St. George and negotiate, as I continue to stabilize our budget, making sure that we have not laid off any of our employees in city parish government. I would say that this is a time for stability in government like never before. It's unfortunate that my opponent chose not to be here, because I do believe that as those seeking elected office, that there should be a level of accountability with the voters. And for me, one of the challenges is the fact that my opponent over the past 8 years has not voted. And that equates to over 25 missed elections. I can look around this room and I would probably be accurate in saying that each and every one of you, as civically minded individuals, would never let that be your record. I don't even think you'd ever let a 0-3 be your record. Certainly not 0-25. So when you think about leadership, when you think about who has the experience to take Baton Rouge into the next final 4 years, I would submit to you that my background as a Metro Council person, as a state representative, state senator, and as your mayor for 8 years would certainly bring that level of leadership that we need here in our city and in our parish. So I thank you for your attention, and I welcome any questions that you might have. I can always talk some more, too. Okay, Jim, you're in charge.
Let's start with Leah. Okay, yeah,
Well, first of all, we stand in negotiations. That's where we are. And when you're in negotiations, you know that it is probably best to just talk about the fact that we are making progress, which we are making progress. But you have to recognize that the issue at hand when we talk about St. George is somewhat of a complex issue because we're talking about a city the size of over 80,000, almost 85,000 individuals. And so we have to decide in the negotiation process who is going to be responsible for what kind of price tag is attached to that. And so we are fortunate to have legal counsel to help us navigate that path. And I believe at the end of the day, it will help us even be more fiscally responsible by having that legal counsel in this process.
Gary?
Mayor, the last 8 years, there's no doubt.
Gary, please ask your question, Gary.
What do you think personally, you gave your plan, what do you think personally was one of your biggest mistakes that you would change?
I'll repeat the question. What do I think was my biggest mistake since I have been mayor president over the past 8 years? I'll start first by saying I think every person in this room, every leader, every CEO, if they haven't made a mistake, I would certainly love to sit down and have a conversation with them. Okay, so that's my first statement. I have 3 statements in response to your question. The second is every leader does not neglect the challenges that they have faced in their leadership role. They should not do that. I will tell you my third response, that when I reflect on missteps or things I would do differently, there are 2 things that come to mind. One, I would handle staffing issues a little differently. And 2, I would do a better job of promoting all of the successes and achievements that we accomplished over the past 8 years. Because I have found during this tenure of running for mayor president reelection that many people do not even know some of the accomplishments that we try very hard to share with the press, in fact. I don't know if the press gets battle fatigue on our press releases or what, but we try very hard to get that information out. But I am finding we have to do a better job of that.
Okay, so again, on the budget, BRPD is looking at somewhere upwards of an 8% cut since last year. Obviously, this is because of the advent of St. George. In their request for their budget this year, they said their priorities were mental health, physical health for the officers, youth and community engagement, and gun violence reduction programs. I know in your letter in the budget as well, you said these were priorities in this regard. For you and your office, with this budget cut, how can we be sure that these priorities are met?
Well, his question is how can we be assured that priorities are met in public safety through budget cuts? First, let me just tell you about our budget. With the advent of the new city of St. George, several years ago, I asked our department heads to provide me with scenarios of different percentages of budget cuts, like a 10% or a 20%. What can you do that would still maintain a quality level of services for the people in our city and parish? I asked that of the police chief. The police chief provided his budget with the budget cuts. What you have to understand is that in the midst of those cuts, are many positions that were never funded, right? And so that was the first step in that process. The public safety police budget specifically, I will say, still is the largest budget in city parish government. And in this process, we have shared with the chief, have plans on the table to augment part of his budget with some additional ARPA funds that we were able to free up. And that will help with some of their goals and objectives as well.
As far as the general fund subsidy, there still is that 8% decrease. Are you saying that ARPA funds will be used to fund mental health, youth engagement, and gun violence reduction programs?
I'm saying that we already have part of that in our budget, and I'm saying secondly that we will be collaborating with the chief. He probably is already aware of this, of these funds, and I'm going to, in our collaboration, work with him to in terms of what he believes is the best priority for those funds. But let me just say this. The issue of mental health, youth empowerment, I think that's what you said. You said mental health, community engagement. We're not going to let that suffer. Let me say that we have already, and you may be aware of this, we gave over $1 million already to initiatives like the Inspiration Center and the Youth Innovation Center on Government Street. So these programs will certainly be continuing. Also, you always have to remember that while a lot of what we do in city parish government is dependent on revenues from the taxpayers, we also are always aggressively pursuing grant opportunities as well as philanthropic opportunities. So with that being a part of our thought process with the budget, I believe that we will still be able to respond certainly significantly in those areas.
One last question on that, I'm sorry. Do you have any concerns about the changing of the presidential administration as far as your request for these grants and funds down the road?
No, I have no concerns about the changes, the change in terms of how it will impact local government. Once again, I will have even a higher profile in terms of advocating not only for Baton Rouge in terms of grants and opportunities, but for, as I told you, cities, towns, and villages across America through my leadership role as the new president of the National League of Cities. Federal advocacy is will be one of my key roles. And you have to remember that these cities, towns, and villages that I will be representing have diverse leadership. They have Republican, Democratic, Independent, nonpartisan leaders who serve as mayors and council members, and I will be representing all of them. And we all have some very shared goals that we all want to achieve.
Thank you, Mayor.
Barbara, you next.
What percentage of your job is mayor versus parish president? And could you speak to the last 8 years as parish president and the future as parish president, not just mayor?
That's a great question. What percentage of my job is mayor versus parish president? I'll be very honest with you that I would say when I look over the past 8 years, because I look at everything really from a broad viewpoint. In fact, I look at everything from an East Baton Rouge parish point of view. I believe that my time has been equal in both as mayor of Baton Rouge and as parish president. It's an intersection that's really hard to separate. I'll just share that with you. It's an intersection. That consolidated form of government is hard to separate. So when I think about what needs to take place, not only in Baton Rouge, I collaborate with the mayor of Zachary. I collaborate with the mayor of Baker. I collaborate with the mayor of Central and now the new mayor of St. George to find out how I can serve them and help, perhaps in many instances, close gaps, whether it's with infrastructure or equipment issues that they may be having, even roads or transportation. So I think that it's still going to be very similar moving forward.
Mayor, I haven't had a chance to look at your budget. I've been kind of busy the past couple of weeks. I was very disappointed that the plan of government failed. And I'm wondering if you have ever considered or would consider this administration hiring a person who would be a city manager for our city.
So the question was about the city manager. So let me say this. I believe, and I've said this time and time again, sometimes I don't know if the message is getting across. I have never been opposed to a city manager. A city manager to me is just another name for a chief administrative officer. Yes, the roles are very much the same. Even if you look at what was in the recent ballot initiative, everything in that job description was pretty much what goes on now for a chief administrative officer. A city manager, I believe, certainly has specific credentials that they bring to the job, and I have no problem with that. I had no problem with it 8 years ago when I intentionally pursued people with city manager credentials. I can remember distinctively that one of the individuals was a gentleman out of Austin, Texas, and he was actually an assistant city manager, but his salary was more than what the mayor makes. And so the issue is not, to get qualified, and we've had some great CAOs who have done some wonderful things in my administration, but the issue is about more about a salary issue if you're going to make it more competitive. And it's certainly, I will say this, when a city manager, CAO, whatever you want to call that person, I think they said parish administrator on the ballot initiative, there is no way that that person should be just selected or approved by the council. If that person is going to work hand in hand with the mayor, that should be the mayor's choice, or you're going to have some conflict going on. We could talk offline about it a little bit more if you'd like. Yes, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Garbar, EBR. We usually see lower voter turnout during the runoffs. What are you doing to keep that energy up and get people out to the polls?
Well, we are very energized about getting people out to the polls. We are very intentional about making sure, by the way, that people know that early voting is taking place actually right now through November 30th, that there are 5 locations where people can early vote: the Baker Motor Vehicle Office, Central Branch Library, City Hall, the fire station on Coursey, and the Louisiana State Archives. So we're encouraging people to early vote, and of course on December 7th is the election. But we're just reminding people, as I said, very intentionally, what's at stake here on the ballot. I believe that the citizens of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish will go out and turn out just like they did, if not even more, on as they did in the November 5th election. Sarah?
Follow-up question. Do you think that Ted James's recent endorsement is going to help you bring out more people to vote?
Yes.
What is your impression of the role that former Representative Jenkins is playing in your opponent's campaign?
What is my impression of Woody Jenkins' role in my opponent's campaign? It's very concerning. It's extremely concerning because I don't think that former Representative Woody Jenkins embraces the overall vision that the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish have of unifying and collaboration and inclusivity, just to name a few.
Rob?
Mayor, can you confirm that the cost of litigating the St. George matter was provided by private funds?
Yes.
As a part-time member of the Press Club, as a joke today, I kind of suggested to them, why don't we find out whether the building that we meet is in the city limits of Baton Rouge or the city of St. George? Because I believe that this thing was at St. George, your point of view. I think that
All right, what's your question?
would you be willing to negotiate with the Press Club for a long-term contract for at least meeting in this building?
Well, would I be willing to negotiate with the press club about their location? I'm let the press club handle their own business. I got enough to say. I have enough to say grace over myself.
The district attorney gave us this sheet when he spoke recently about murders in East Baton Rouge Parish. And the average for Kip Holden in his tenure is under 75. The average for your tenure is over 100 murders. How do you reconcile that, especially since the parish population has declined?
Well, I reconcile the fact that when you look at crime in 2022 and 2023, we had a downward trajectory of crime. I reconcile that by saying if you look at the data, we had an increase in the earlier part of the year, but in the city of Baton Rouge, we are seeing a downward trajectory. I think it's very important when you look at that data that you look at it very closely, because some of the data includes the parish, which has the chief law enforcement officer of the parish being the sheriff, and then the city of Baton Rouge being under the chief of police. But what is more importantly is how do we continue to mitigate crime and increase public safety in the years to come. We will certainly see our 21st century, and I believe innovative policing, play a significant role. As I shared with you, our numbers decreased over the past 2 years, which a lot of people don't talk about that. And so I believe that when we put more youth to work during the summertime, as we have over every summer, almost since I have been mayor president, increasing that number. When we focus on our 21st century practices, such as our real-time crime center, when we get to the root causes of crime and accentuate and spend more time there, such as early childhood education, I think we will continue to see a downward trajectory take place.
Mayor Broome, back to the budget. One of the bigger cuts, I think it is important for people to understand, one of the bigger cuts is coming to the Department of Maintenance, which is responsible for landscape, street, and drainage. You have talked a lot about the campaign being about beautification projects and the identity of Baton Rouge. With a 16% cut to this department, how can you ensure that those projects continue and that your campaign promises are upheld?
Yeah, his question is about the budget and the Department of Maintenance. Once again, the department leader of the Department of Maintenance provided that information. So my goal was always to maintain the quality level of services, and obviously our department leader for that department feels that we can continue down that path. But let me add something. You mentioned my initiatives. You didn't say them specifically, but I will, like Brighten Up Baton Rouge, where we're working not only with our Department of Maintenance, but we're working with other nonprofit organizations such as Clean Pelican and Keep Tiger Town Beautiful. And I would also add that we're working with the Lieutenant Governor on his litter-free initiative. And part of that will include us being a part of a pilot program that will help us with our interstate areas that are connected to Baton Rouge. So I am very, I feel very good, I'll just say this, about the 2025 budget. And one of the reasons, there's several that I feel good about it, is because one of my overall goals was to not lay off any of our 4,000 plus employees. We achieved that. The second goal was to make sure that we continued with the level of services to the citizens of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish with the advent of a new emerging city. And based on our work with our department heads, who I have to thank for them for their fiscal responsibility and maintaining the quality level of services at the same time, that we will be able to fulfill those two goals.
Jim?
Bill?
Mayor, what legacy do you hope to leave when the Final Four is concluded and the Big 12 is over?
That's a great question. What is the legacy for the Final Four? You know, I have often said that the legacy is really not about Sharon Weston Broome, but of course about this great city and parish that I love. I would like to see part of my legacy be the manifestation of some of these wonderful transformative ideas that we talked about, whether it's seeing that riverfront development, cutting a ribbon, or digging ground, doing a groundbreaking on that, or specifically seeing the numbers increase of those individuals, our young and talented individuals from LSU and Southern University, continue to make Baton Rouge their home, and certainly making sure through assessment that the citizens of Baton Rouge feel that it's a place that they are proud to call home.
Mayor, how did you think Baton Rouge fared in the tax session?
Well, I will tell you, we were in constant communication with the folks at the Capitol. In fact, one of our finance department leaders was intimately involved in that. So there was no major hurt for Baton Rouge, I'll just say that. So I think we fared well.
What about the bridge?
Well, I had a personal conversation with the governor and with other legislative leaders, and I was assured that that would be part of the next phase, and it was not going to be forgotten. I got assurances on that.
Any other questions?
Did you get that, Representative Freiberg, assurance too?
I could never have voted for that bill without the letter signed by the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President of the Senate.
So you got the same assurance.
This will be the final question.
Would you support the closing of Washington Street exit from the interstate?
Well, I think that's my opponent's issue. He loves talking about closing the Washington Street exit. But I will tell you, that has to be discussed with the Department of Transportation and Development. I'm all for making sure that we have fluid and improved transportation that goes on. Today, my position would be not to close it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming.
You're what?